Hello, everyone. Okay, raise your hand if you can hear me. I like it. Awesome. I can see the attendee number jumping. We're up to 81, 82, 83. Whoa, this is exciting. We actually have 188 people registered for this Zoominar today. So excited to have everyone. And in a timely fashion, we will get started as I know more people will start trickling in. So welcome to our Zoominar, sports management during and after, hopefully there's an after, right? COVID-19 pandemic, and how we can all prepare for this new future in sports. What are we looking for? What's going to be happening? I'm Mackenzie Rogers, and I'm a member of Sports Circle Indy, a board member. We are about making connections, sharing ideas. You can check us out at sportscircleindy.org, not .com, remember that. And then I'm also the Director of Business Development with CVR. We are an Indianapolis-based integrated marketing and advertising firm who loves to build brands that matter. And that's exactly why we're partnering with Sports Circle Indy. They matter and they're making an impact, and we're trying to make an impact today. With that in mind, you are going to hear from awesome folks in the sports industry. Amongst your panelists here today, they come from the New York Rangers. They come from Columbus Blue Jackets. They come from the Phoenix Suns, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Texas Rangers, Milwaukee Brewers, Portland Trail Blazers. It goes on and on. So you have got a ton of experience here with you today. So please put your questions in the chat and we'll make sure to get to those later. So in about a minute or so, we'll quickly introduce each of your panelists, and then we will get to all the questions and get to your Q&A. We've got a poll at the end. But before we start, I have two ground rules, two. You know, we're in sports, so you always got to have ground rules and a playbook, right? So first, we're here to learn. So take everything that you can here. And I don't expect you to be staring at the screen the whole time. I know we like to multitask. We got a lot of things going on. But if you're going to jump away from this, go to sportscircleindy.org. Check us out at cvrindy.com or go to any of the speakers' websites that you see here. We're also going to be live tweeting. So follow us at Sports Circle IND or on Instagram at Sports Circle Indy. And number two, have fun. I was a diver. I was fortunate to be a diver at Stanford, so I'm going to put my plug in here, go Stanford, through the screen there. And my diving coach there always told me, we're in sports. If we're not having fun, why are we here? Okay, so we're going to have fun today. I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to have a poll. And for those of you who stay to the end, we are going to have some prizes, some giveaways. But in order to get your prize, make sure you take a selfie of yourself while we're on this and make sure to put it out on your social channels and use hashtag SCI Zoominar. All right, let's get started. Let's meet our panelists. So I am going to throw up on our screen the panelist names so you can see them. And then we will get going. Okay, so first we have got, you see, Todd Taylor, with the Pacers, the EVP, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer. And we have also got Jordan Mirabile from Indy 11, Director of Administration and Culture. And from the Colts, Joe Ondrejko, Senior Vice President of Ticket Sales and Service. Now, each one of them are going to talk to you about what they do in their own words, and then also how they started their sports career. So Todd, let's start with you. Tell us about, in your own words, what you get to do every day and how you broke into the sports industry.
Sure. Well, actually, I look a lot more clean shaven there. So it's my hiatus beard. So if you've met me before, I probably look a little bit different. But it's a chance for us to all grow and change a little bit during this process. So first of all, thanks for having me on here. When you run down that list of teams, it seems like none of us can hold a job. So I assure you that most of us have been fairly successful in this industry. although moving is a big part of it. In my current role as a Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, I'm actually over really 6 major areas of our business. It's obviously the sales side of it, so it's the sponsorship sales and ticket sales. It's the marketing area, our social digital area, our basically the hottest new area that we have, which is analytics and automation, and then game entertainment. So in a nutshell, the way I describe what I do, my job is to try and connect with our fans, find a reason for them to come to a game, hopefully put on a good show and get them to come back. So 6 VPs of that area. We handle all the sales and marketing for the Pacers, the Mad Ants, our G League team, the WNBA Fever, 2K, which we have a game tonight. So if you want to check that out on YouTube or Twitch, you'll be able to do that. And then obviously the building. I'll try and be real quick in how I bust into sports, but it's usually a question that we get asked often. So I went to school at Ohio State, go Bucks, if there's anybody on here, OH. And I went to school full-time, worked full-time, and you get plenty of advice when you're growing up, right? So my advice was to go into sales because I could make a lot of money, work my own flexible hours, and do a pretty good job. So I actually took a job selling corrugated packaging right out of college. I quickly found that sales is hard. It took me about a year before I could get people to give me money for our product. I had no problem getting appointments, but it was a lot different to get that hard-earned money from them. And after I got a little bit better at sales, I just wasn't that excited about corrugated packaging. I know it sounds thrilling, selling brown boxes, but it certainly isn't as exciting as sports. So I was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. There was an article in the Columbus Dispatch about Columbus being awarded an expansion hockey team. I didn't have a name yet, but in this article, it went on to basically say that the team was getting 3,000 resumes per week for jobs that didn't exist yet. So I thought, man, that'd be really great to work for a hockey team. But considering I had never put on skates, I grew up in football-rich Ohio. I didn't go to school for sports, and I knew no one in the hockey industry. I knew it was going to be tough. So I read the article and found out that a man named John McConnell was going to buy the team, and a guy named John Christie was going to run it temporarily. So this was obviously a long time ago, and a lot of you won't get this reference, but pre 9/11, you could actually send anonymous packages to people, and they would open them. Amazing as that sounds. So working in this corrugated packaging business, I could make custom packaging, and I thought, man, since I didn't play hockey and I didn't go to school, I better find a way to stand out from those 3,000 people. So I went out and bought these things called Nerf battling goalies. So Nerf went through a period of time where they had these tabletop games, maybe some of you remember. Well, battling goalies was actually shooting foam pucks at each other across the table into each other's goal. So not knowing any better at the time, I went out and bought 2 of these. I put one in a box and sent it to John McConnell, the guy buying the team. And I sent another one to John Christie. And in each of their boxes, I put at the top, Taylor 1 of 3, so they'd be expecting a few more packages. On the actual card itself, I said my goal was to join their team. And at the bottom of Mr. Christie's, I said, if you're looking for a game, please call John McConnell. And on Mr. McConnell's, I said, if you're looking for a game, please call John Christie. The next week, I followed it up with a full-size hockey stick, which makes a pretty big impression when you drop it off in an office in a big box. And the third week, I sent a hockey puck with the famous quote from Wayne Gretzky. When he's asked why he's such a great scorer, he always comments that he skates to where the puck will be, not where it is. I revealed myself through a resume and said that I wanted to be in Columbus when the puck dropped in October of 2000. Called Mr. Christie. He invited me in, said it was super creative. He thought it was awesome. And then he said, but we're not hiring, by the way. So a little disappointing, but he did promise to give me an interview with the president and GM when they were ultimately hired. True to his word, I got an interview with Doug McClain, and I was the first ticket sales person hired by the team. And from then, it's been all those places you've mentioned, and it's been a great career.
That's fantastic. What a unique way to grab someone's attention. I know you're going to talk a little bit more about that, Todd, so thank you. And for those of you just joining, we are live here with Todd Taylor from the Pacers, Joe Ondrejko from the Colts, and Jordan Mirabile from Indy 11, kicking it off on describing what they do every day and how they broke into the sports industry. So Jordan, let's kick it to you.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Jordan Mirabile. I'm the Director of Administration and Culture over at Indy 11 Professional Soccer. A lot of sports are so focused on fans, as we should be, right? And so focused on players. And my job is really about our staff, making sure that we have everything we need to be successful. Without our staff, we wouldn't have all those great fans and players. So that's super important to me. I'm in charge of all of our staff engagement, general kind of office aesthetic work to make sure it's a nice work environment for everyone. I do our project management for our leadership team, and I run our entire internship program. So if any of you have applied for internships, you've heard from me at some point. And I will give a plug for our fall internships. They are due June 15th, so please apply on our website at indy11.com. So I've been at Indy 11 for just over a year now, but I got my start back in Arizona. I went to Arizona State for my undergrad. Go Devils. And with one semester left in my undergrad, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, like many people who are about to graduate, and thought, hey, I love sports. I'm just going to apply anywhere I can in Phoenix. And it was January, so it was basketball season. And I took a job driving around the Suns branded Kia Sorrento for 4 months that had a basketball hoop attached to the top. We went to fun runs and kids' birthday parties and let kids shoot basketballs at this car. And it was such an experience. And as it was, the Suns season was about to be up in April, and I wasn't done working in basketball. I loved it. So I interned for the Phoenix Mercury, the WNBA team, and got my start kind of cleaning out storage closets and sending a lot of random emails to people that did not want to hear from me. But I did get to take home some cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I got this, my Phoenix Suns branded Legends picture.
Awesome.
Never been out of the packaging. So obviously, putting that up. And from there, I interned there for 3 months. That was the year they won the championship. So that was really exciting, except for I left 2 weeks before the championship game. So I do not have my ring, and I'm still sad about it. That was tough, but I went on to get my master's at NYU and worked for the New York Rangers for 2 years. So made it to Indy by way of New York and Arizona. And from there, just really worked my way up. I met the right people. I did the right things. I never said no to anything. And that's how I just kind of climbed the ladder. So that's, in a nutshell, how I broke in.
Awesome. And I empathize with you not getting that championship ring. I've been there my sophomore year at Stanford. We were a half a point from winning NCAA championships for swimming and diving. So I feel ya. Awesome. Okay. And again, those of you just joining, we are live with Todd Taylor, Joe Ondrejko, and Jordan Mirabile from various sports entities. Please do, if you have questions, don't hesitate to throw them in the chat. We're going to get to Q&A later. And then make sure you take your selfie picture of you while we're on here and post it on your social channels, hashtag SCI Zoominar, if you want to win a prize. Okay, Joe, we're on you. Please let us know, what is your day job like and how you broke into the industry?
So my day job is overseeing, obviously, all ticketing for the Indianapolis Colts. So when you think about a 65,000 seat building, there's a mixture between clubs, suites, general admission tickets. And that's really what we're in charge of, making sure that we are maximizing revenue and getting butts in seats. Mm-hmm. So in helping me do that, we have a team now of about 40 reps whose jobs are all specific to the line of, the team that which they work in. So, we'll have a group sales department, season sales, services, premium seating. So very specific and individualized to what it is that their purpose to sell. In addition to that, we'll also oversee operations, making sure basically the tickets work and they get scanned in, and then help with on the marketing side and marketing our individual and package sales. How I got into sports is, it's actually a lot like Todd. Like it was, I got in working for a, non-traditional hockey team, starting with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think really for me, I actually have a younger brother who's also in sports as well, and he was working for the Lightning. I was, I'm from upstate New York, from Binghamton, and I was just going to be a teacher, high school teacher coach was my plan. I went down to visit him. And I'm like, holy cow, Tampa's amazing. What am I doing in upstate New York? Kind of like what Todd said, I was given advice as well that if you really want to make any money in this world, you're either going to have to learn to sell or own a business. And if you own a business, there's a lot of risk involved in that. So the easier way to go about it is really, the sales route. So I took a job in recruiting down in Tampa, was making really good money. My brother had moved on, and the Lightning were like, hey, if you're gonna keep hanging out and taking free tickets and coming to our golf tournaments, you're gonna have to come work for us. But I knew it was a significant pay cut to go and do that. because working in sports, it just doesn't pay as much because there's so many people that, that want that job. I still think that's, that's probably true today. So the other thing I think, for me, what I realized in my time in Tampa was I went from ticket sales to suite sales to sponsorship sales. And what I started to realize is I kind of thought of my career and how I wanted the journey to go was it wasn't about the title or what the product was I was doing. Really, when it comes down to kind of finding a way to excel within the industry is being able to generate revenue. And the larger scale that you're able to do that, like the more opportunities that you're going to have as you kind of, build throughout. So every time that I've kind of transitioned throughout my career, one, you can ask my wife, it's always been a pay reduction or, I left commissions on the table. But a big part of it was the opportunity that I had in front of me was to actually generate more revenue and be responsible for a bigger piece of the pie. So that's kind of been, the path I've taken. I think a big part of it, and that's the other thing, just to, we've moved 4 times now, through my career, and my wife and my family have sacrificed a lot in order for me to get to the place I wanted to get to. But that's kind of what it is when you're working sports. There's very rarely you're going to find one executive who's worked for the same team for 20, 30 years that kind of build their up. Like there are some. That's not really the real way that it happens. And there's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of moving that has to occur with it.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I know we'll touch on a little bit more deeper into how do you make yourself stand out? How do you help generate those dollars? How do you affect the bottom line? So obviously we're here because it's COVID-19, we're social distancing. It's awesome to be able to see into your respective living rooms and your offices. Thank you for letting us into your homes. I want to start the next question, Jordan. At Indy 11, what are the top 1 or 2 things you guys are debating because of COVID-19? What are you struggling with? What are you talking about? What is it that you're really trying to overcome?
Yeah, so Indy 11 is in a unique position. We only have 25 full-time employees. So our staff, to get them back into the office is going to be a little bit easier than the Pacers or Colts, knowing that you guys have hundreds, if not thousands of employees using the stadium as well. So kind of our top issue is our employee health and safety. And when will we know that it's all right for everyone to go back and kind of resume some form of normalcy, to be together again and to go into conference rooms that are, seat 12 people and have more than 3 people at the table, sitting very far apart from each other. So that's kind of a conversation that I have ongoing with my boss every day. And when is that going to be okay? What does that rollout look like? And it's weird, right? We're used to everyone just go in and we'll pile 12 people into this conference room. And now it's going to be 5 people at a time, 10 people at a time until we can grow back into that normalness of your day. And I think our second biggest issue is just like these guys, our season is done right now, right? Our season has been indefinitely suspended. So all of the plans we had 6 weeks ago don't matter anymore. So it's how can we plan for this upcoming season when there's nothing to plan for right now? How can we adjust and pivot? We were supposed to have a game this past Monday and it was supposed to be Star Wars night and we had all this really cool stuff planned and now we can't do any of it, obviously, because the game didn't happen. Something I was really excited about. I love Parks and Rec. We had a Parks and Rec night planned and Jim O'Hare, aka Gary Gergich, was supposed to come. I was thrilled. And that has all now changed. So it's finding ways to creatively try to figure out what's going to happen 2, 3, 8 weeks from now and how we can pivot and adjust our timelines and plans to fit that, even though we don't have anything right now. So those are, in a very long way of saying, our 2 biggest issues is just the constant change of what's happening in our current environment. Right.
And I would say keeping the spirits high, given you're a part of the culture, I'm sure that's a part of it as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's tough because we're so used to, and these guys know, working in sports forever, you work 80 hours a week when you've got 3 games and these people are your family. I see them sometimes more than I see my own husband. And that's just the way that sports is. And so to not see them right now is so strange. And I'll talk about it a little bit later, but ways that we've kind of found ways to connect with each other virtually or over the phone or different ways like that when this has changed so much for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. So Todd, tell us at the Pacers, what are the top two things you guys are debating, working on because of COVID-19?
Yeah, I think Jordan stole pretty much all my stuff right there. The biggest thing is really safety back to work. That's number one. And obviously with us fans. So, it's really two back to work plans, one for just the staff and the other one for obviously all the fans. And Joe will probably touch on this. It's almost impossible because we don't exactly know what capacities are going to be and what you're allowed to do and things that you're going to need to be able to provide for a safe environment. So, first and foremost, my day-to-day job is keeping our staff sort of engaged and together. As Jordan accurately pointed out, this is very much family-like. So to not be with each other and see each other is a tough adjustment for all of us because we're social and we're in sports and entertainment. So that's huge. And then I honestly feel like I'm, for all of you in grad school or have gone through it, I did not, but I feel like I'm in a theoretical class where I'm just testing my problem-solving ability against these assumptions and models that may or may never happen. I'm spending every day with a brand new twist, fans coming in, nothing's ever happened, and we go on, life is normal. Some fans sometime, no fans ever. So if you guys have a scenario, I've probably run it, my guess.
Right.
Hopefully I get an A in the class, so it'll be great.
A++ from here, and I'm sure all the attendees would give you that as well, for sure. And speaking of attendees, thank you, William and Nicole, for chiming in with some questions. We'll go to those in just a second. So, Joe, tell us, what are the top two things the Colts are debating because of COVID-19?
It's interesting that our position being the NFL, season still 5 months away is a lot different than the 11 or the Pacers. So for us, there's almost this take on it, like it's business as usual for us right now. But at the same time, we're going through all the same kind of, pre-planning and what if scenarios, looking at 1,000 different things. So it's almost like us, the leadership side, like we're doing two things at once. We're doing our normal, off-season operations. Last month, our ticket sales numbers were the same as they were last year. We're still selling season tickets right now, amidst all the uncertainty. And I think that's, it's two things. It's one, it's obviously the power of the NFL and have the, how people look at it and want it in their lives. And two, I think certainly the draft had, a major impact on people, looking forward to the upcoming Colts season. I think for us, it's how we're messaging what to expect in this, in all this uncertainty and it being 5 months away. And I think, we're just we use the term a lot, tactical empathy. We're trying to find a balance between how we continue to kind of push and understand that, things are going to continue to kind of change and evolve as we get closer to the season. But we want to use kind of, we had over 8 million people view the draft over the weekend a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to release a schedule tomorrow night at 7:30. So we know we have a chance to kind of capture attention because there's no other sports kind of distracting it. So we're really working on how we balance those two things. The conversation we have a lot with our sales reps right now is, they're making 50, 60, 75 phone calls a day trying to sell a season ticket for this fall. They don't know if the person they're calling has a job still or has somebody in the home who's going through this illness. And, we're not asking them to kind of, to lay off at all, but we're just asking them to be very thoughtful about the approach. And we spent a lot of time in training. It's just kind of added another element to the, what the call flow looks like for our sales reps. So it's been kind of, it's a little bit different, but a little bit the same for us.
Okay. So are we hearing, Joe, that based on a question from William in the audience about ticket sales, how's the potential of games without fans affect your job? Is it sounding like because you guys are still not quite in season, ticket sales are still okay? We haven't quite got to a detrimental point?
We haven't, no.
Okay.
Like I said, our year over year, we're actually ahead of where we were last year. So we're in a pretty strong spot. And then all anticipation is we have probably one of our strongest home games in a long time. We have Green Bay at home, which we know is going to be, a big seller when we go on sale tomorrow night. So I think from that standpoint, fans understand it's still so far away. They're excited about what might be. And we're just telling them like, hey, as we get there, we're going to watch what happens with, you know, the Pacers and 11 and, you know, the other like sporting events that are going to be occurring between now and then. And we'll follow suit. We'll make sure we're doing the right thing for our fans.
Okay. So Todd, obviously we would have all loved seeing Oladipo making some points right now, being in the playoffs. This would have been the season. How has that affected your ticket sales?
Yeah, and you know, and Joe kind of pointed it out, and Jordan's a little bit like we are, right? So we had a season interrupted, so we're sort of caught between two worlds. It's finishing off 1920 and hopefully get those games in, and then obviously preparing for 2021 season. So, you know, our approach has been a little bit different, only because, you know, until you can sort of figure out some things that are happening, it makes it hard to have a real concise message. You know, Joe can sort of sell hope and Phillip Rivers and, you know, getting everybody back here. From our standpoint, you know, we're making calls and we're answering questions or fielding questions we can't quite answer. So ours is very much business as usual for 2021, pending what happens for 1920. So it, you know, this is where I'm really, really happy. We have a great trained staff on our season ticket services group, that they can have those important conversations with our fans and be able to deliver some news without really having any news to be able to deliver.
Does it feel like you're trying to just make stuff up, you know, just draw on?
Well, they better not be. I certainly hope they're not. You know, we have very strict rules in the NBA of what we can say and what we can't say. So hopefully they're staying on script. You know, really, and I'm sure we'll touch on this, and whether it's trying to get a job in this business through networking or, you know, our season seat holders or our employees once they're there, it is really about relationships. So we're not having to make up a whole lot because I think we've built up a lot of equity and trust with our fans. So they know that we're going to do the right thing. Same thing with the 11, same thing with the Colts. I mean, I think all of our organizations are great for our community because we typically do the right thing. So I don't think people are panicked and think that somehow they're going to be hurt during this process, or we're not going to listen to what it is that they need or take their considerations to heart when we're making our decisions. So really, it's more about just having that conversation and just saying, hey, we're here. I'm happy to try and get answers. Probably can't give you a ton of them, but as soon as we have information, you'll be the first people we call.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Jordan, being that you're a part of administration and culture for Indy 11, we've alluded to this before, but tell us, please, how are you working on culture when we are not even together?
Yeah, so it's not easy. It's really difficult because a lot of our culture stems from the family nature of what we do. But we're always trying to be that best in class, set a precedent to be what other teams look to do. So we've kind of turned our focus this year on internal professional development, and that's with our staff, with our interns, with our team, everybody. So we were lucky enough to get, I'll have a plug for True You here. They are a professional development company here in Indy, and they've got hundreds of courses online to help you better yourself. So we've challenged our staff, hey, go in, listen to these. And they've got different courses. I sent one out yesterday that was all about adapting to changes in the workplace.
Okay.
And how, obviously this was made long before COVID happened, but it was all about asking the right questions and stepping up when you're needed. And it's so relevant to what we're going through today. So a lot of what we focus on is professional development. And then we're doing, you know, the virtual happy hours that are so helpful because you finally get to see people. And I love my husband, but sometimes I just want to see my coworkers and I want to see my other family. And so that's really nice. We've got one this Friday. I know a couple of my interns are on the call. So we're doing a goodbye happy hour for our interns since this would have been their last day. And unfortunately, 7 weeks ago, it was cut very, very short. So we're doing a lot of that. And we're also trying to be as transparent as possible. And I think that's a huge part of our culture is making sure that people know what they can know from the top down. And, you know, our CEO is great. He tries to give us everything he can as soon as he can. But with a constantly changing world, it's really, really difficult. So really just trying to better our staff, trying to get together when we can and focus on ourselves so that when we go back and we can see our fans again and we can put something on the field, we're better than we ever have been. And I think that's kind of how we're merging our culture during this time, is just really engaging ourselves and our staff and growing from there.
Great, great. Now, Nicole from the audience is curious about relocating. I know we had just touched on that a little bit ago, but in terms of hiring, have you guys found that any of your organizations, and Jordan being with focus on the culture, I'll let you answer first, are there concerns about hiring people who work from different parts of the state and trying to find a place to live? Does that ever come into consideration?
Right now it wouldn't, because quite frankly, we're not hiring anybody right now. But if we were, I mean, we've got interns who, you know, they went to Butler, but they're from Michigan or they're from Illinois, and they all went home. And at this time, they're still able to do all of their jobs from where they are. So that space has not been affected. Our remote work plan has been great. We use Microsoft Teams for almost everything, and that's been kind of heaven sent, because you can have a video chat or a normal chat or do really anything you need to do. And so you don't have to be in the same room to be as productive as you were.
Right. And Todd, you had mentioned relocating and moving a lot too. So how is that coming to play for Pacers?
Yeah, you know, I have 3 kids, and by the time my oldest was 12, we had lived in 5 states. So, you know, Joe pointed out 4 moves. That's sort of the nature of the business, and I never found it to be a barrier to your career. You know, you get all sorts of advice like job hopping and those types of things. That's less of an impact for the next generation coming up. Certainly, I grew up in an area where people are like, well, you can't switch jobs every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of it is, in our industry in sports, because it's so flat and so lean, a lot of times your next opportunity for growth and development is outside your organization. And your organization hates to see talent leave, but we're also very proud when someone goes to another organization, and I can call up Joe and say, hey, I hear you got a director position open. I've got the exact right person. I'm going to send them across the street. And I don't look at that as competition. I'm happy for that person, and I'm happy to be giving Joe somebody that's great. So the moving, I wouldn't worry about it really. When you're moving early in your career, you want to attach yourself to organizations that have a good reputation, and even more important is someone that can help you sort of navigate your career. I always say ownership group is the most important thing when making a move. The Simon family are terrific. Then it comes down to really your leadership. You know, are they going to help develop you? Are they going to give you those opportunities? Are they going to help nurture you and give you the skills that are going to be necessary? Are they going to tell you to not take that job when it's the next step in your career because it's not a good fit for you? So don't chase the title. Wait, because good things are going to happen. That's the type of organization you need.
Mm-hmm. So again, all about the people, right?
Absolutely.
Following the right people, and we know mentoring is really key. Many of us have had great mentors. They're the ones that have helped us break in. They give you the recommendations. So I would say that goes along with it too. Joe, starting our next section of questions, what positive has come out of COVID-19? We can't be all negative about this. We got to keep our spirits high. Again, we're in sports. We got to be excited, enthusiastic. So what are some good things that are coming out of this?
You know, for me, I think one of the really good things that I've seen is really the way that my directors and VPs have really stepped up. Because I mean, this is not an easy time, and I think from a leadership standpoint, we have to spend so much more time with with our reps and with our employees. Jordan mentioned like the happy hours, like, you know, within each team, like they're doing a nightly wrap-up call on Zoom where, you know, the director is, you know, having this Zoom call with, you know, there's 6 reports and kind of going through the day. That's, you know, I can tell you, I've been on a Zoom call almost every hour from 8 to 6 since it started. It's exhausting. It is wearing.
So,
and I know,
you know, screen fatigue. It happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never wore glasses before this.
Yeah.
It hurts my eyes now. So like just to have that one more time that they touch in and really kind of are really kind of stepping up and leading their teams. I think it's been, and we talked about, like, you know, I've been through 2 work stoppages through my career, and this is very similar to that, like working in this environment.
Yeah.
And I think back at like how my direct boss, you know, in my first work stoppage was in 2005 in the NHL, and he came in every day and had a morning meeting with us at 8 o'clock and say, okay, guys, the strike's going to end soon. Let's get on the phones today. Let's sell some tickets. Let's get after it. And it was not until April that we're like, Todd, it's never happening. Like, there is no season. This is over. He's like, if you don't believe it, like, we don't need you here. We need people who believe on the phone.
Right.
And I think like watching my leadership team kind of enact the same way and kind of operate in the same manner, I think has been a really good thing for all of us and for our organization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, your work stoppage reminded me when I was on the Super Bowl host committee in 2012 here for Indianapolis. That was when they weren't going to have the NFL season possibly, and it was the lockout, and so we were constantly asked, "Hey, there's not going to be a season. Not going to be a season. What are you going to do?" And we said, "We're staying the course. NFL hasn't told us anything differently. That it's not happening. Keep moving. Keep planning." And it's like in any sports, right? You put in your playbook. You put in the time. You practice. And you can't control whether that game may or may not happen because of all sorts of unforeseeable things, but you want to be ready when you come to the table. And it's the same thing with getting the job, right? Practice on the resume, practice on getting the experience, practice on getting a mentor, all of that practice is important. Okay, what positive has come from Indy 11, Jordan, would you say, out of the COVID-19?
It's tough. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been a really hard time, but I think this has given us a lot of time to really slow down, given us time to appreciate what each person in our organization does. Sometimes, work goes under the radar. You don't really know who's responsible for something. And now is the time where we're really learning that. And I think that's so great because we are really leaning on each other for more than what we typically do. And that's so wonderful. And I think that it's such a time when people need to feel needed. I also think it's been great to be able to connect with our fans. Well, this isn't technically the off season and they're kind of hungry for our content. It's been nice to be able to provide for them things that we don't typically do. We put out an activity book and we did all of these different things that we would never think to do before because quite frankly, we didn't have the time. Right. But now we've got this time and we can connect with our fans in a way that we never had before. And I think that that's really special and really showing our brand and really like a family first notion from all of us. So while this has been a really cloudy experience and kind of a tough 6-7 weeks now, what's come out of it is connections and stronger relationships, I think, for us.
Okay, awesome. So Todd, what positives coming out from this for the Pacers? And also I'm going to add in a secondary question from Leah from the group of, have you seen any other cities taking a lead and stepping up and doing things differently and maybe as a model? Or are you talking with other NBA teams? How is that collaboration outside of Indiana working?
Sure, absolutely. I'll answer the question first. So there's tons of collaboration. That's the great part about this industry is really, somebody in every single one of the leagues. So information gets shared pretty readily. We don't view ourselves as competitors necessarily, so we share a lot of best practices. The NBA is very, very good. They have a division called TEAMBO, which is Team Business Marketing Operations, and they help facilitate some of those best practices. So, I know different teams are very aggressive about sharing their plans widely. Sometimes they do that to show to their fans that they're thinking about it. Others are much more subtle, but I guarantee everybody's planning and almost everybody to a team would share that information.
Okay.
So, all of that is really shared learning and how we can apply it to our market. If it's a good idea somewhere, then I guarantee that all three of us on this call are going to adapt it and apply it to our own buildings because that's going to be what the standard is. As far as, the good things that have happened, I mean, it's really, what Joe and Jordan have already said, but, from our standpoint, in sports, you do a lot of planning, right? And you have this idea of what it's going to be. You get a brand new quarterback and there's a lot of excitement and you have a plan of how it's going to go and your football operation super excited. And then the reality comes in and you play games, right? And then in our world, if we start off 10-0, you've never seen a smarter sports marketing executive than me. And if we lose 10 straight games, then I'm one of the dumbest people in the whole business. So, a lot of this has to do with our products that we work with. So what happens when you get in a season is you don't have time necessarily to really think about the business and be innovative because you're in the day-to-day like, hey, we lost last night, got blown out. We better find something good to talk about today. Or, man, we won 3 straight games. Do we really have to mess around with this ticket promotion? So this pause has really caused everybody to get very good at their own areas and say, look, we don't have team performance to rely on. So how do we make compelling content when you can't use Victor Oladipo hitting a game-winning shot? Now
Right.
you gotta use Doug McDermott doing dribbling drills in his driveway. How do you make that exciting?
Right.
So I think that's the good thing is that, I mean, and this is, I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but this is the huge opportunity that people have
Yeah.
when there's disruption.
Yeah.
How do you make a name for yourself? How do you come up with a great idea? How do you do something different? How do you look at a problem uniquely so that you can make a huge impact? And that's how we're trying to look at it.
I love that you use the word disruption, because not only has this been a disruption in our lives, it's been a disruption in the way we work and the way we need to think, how we market ourselves. So let's go into that next section that Todd, you're mentioning, and what we want everybody on the call to understand or get from you guys today too is, what 3 things would you recommend, particularly for those in the audience that are either in school wanting to be in sports, or fresh out of college getting into sports, or just trying to advance in their sports career? So Todd, hit it off with what 3 things at least, or a couple, 2 is fine, would you recommend?
Yeah, at first when I touched on it, when I gave my sort of story about getting in the business, I mean, everybody on this call has a desire to be in sports if you're not already. It's a competitive industry, as Joe pointed out, right? So we're fortunate. We get the best of the best and the brightest. They're all type A personalities, high achievers. They're all driven. They've typically played sports. They're competitive. So it's really, really hard. If you want to be Joe, right, there's 32 of Joes in the NFL, right? So if that's your dream, that's long odds when you start out with a class of 25 other salespeople that you're starting with that all want that same job. And then you work really, really hard, and you have to have some luck along the way. So, number 1 to me is really standing out. Number 2, and this is a hard, fine line. Again, I have a 19-year-old, so I get to see this in real time, right? It's like those things that you have about, your dad was really dumb until you turned 19, and then he got a little bit smarter every single day, right? So it's a fine balance for everybody trying to get in here, but I see young executives or future executives make a very common mistake, and that is they mistakenly believe that they need a seat at the table to make an impact. When in reality, the way that you get a seat at the table is by making an impact, right? So the way that you get invited there, I started out in sales. I love relationships. I love talking to customers. I'm so far removed from talking to our customers on a daily basis. I only get information that's filtered to me through several levels. Right. So the best idea is going to come from our sales reps that are talking to people. Right. And they might be the least experienced, but they have a brand new perspective. I've been doing this for 22 years. I'm going to typically make a decision that's going to be the best decision with the information that I have, that's going to cause the least disruption to our organization and gives us the best chance to succeed. But if you're an individual rep and you've got an idea that you picked up because you're following something else, you apply it to business and you bring it to me and it's well thought out, that might be a game changer. That might be how you advance your career. So I'll leave it at 2 and save time for Jordan and Joe, but that's sort of my 2.
Great. Okay, Joe, what would you say, or advice to those listening on how to break into this industry?
So I think the biggest part is, especially in sports, is the connection. So internships are obviously a huge avenue to go and explore and get experience, but the bigger part of doing an internship is sports is just so interconnected. Like I know right now at least 5 people that know Todd and Jordan really well that we've never even really talked about. And I think when you do that internship, you have an opportunity to make a connection with somebody in an organization that probably is really well connected in the industry and that can help you find a job. Like if it's not at that team, at a myriad of other teams. In fact, one of the reasons why I went and took the job with the Philadelphia 76ers, and Todd mentioned a little bit earlier, was because the NBA has this organization called Teambo. I mean, it's one of their sole functions is really to help promote and like find the talent and get them into the right positions like throughout the entire league. So I think taking the internship, but putting the time in building a relationship to tap into those executives' connections, I think is a huge part. The second thing is, especially for those that are still in school, are still involved in schools, the biggest part of, when you look at, Todd talked about, like there's one of SVPs in NFL. From an odd standpoint, when you look at most front offices and sports organizations, the vast majority of the roles are in the ticket sales side of things. Like for us, we have 40 people out of 100 that are solely focused on selling tickets. The way they do that is by picking up the phone and dialing it. and making phone calls.
Mhm.
And we actually share kind of a clip. I love using it for the pursuit of happiness about, it's Will Smith and like a
Yep.
job he had in the finance market, back in 1982. At that time, they were doing it the same way. The only difference is we have CRM systems now with computers and laptops, and he had a, Excel printout sheet, but it happened over the phone. So I think a big part, especially the first, starting out in sports, the phone is so important. Getting that experience, like working for the, alumni or donor programs of your school, and making those calls and trying to raise funds. Not that you're successful at it, you just get used to the practice of it. Because making 100 phone calls every day and getting hung up on, all throughout the whole time and maybe talking to two people, that's hard to do, but that's what the job is.
Yeah.
That's what the job is for a long time. And I think the third part is, we talk a lot about it, is attitude over ability. So, to take that job of failure, really as long as like your attitude and how you handle that is going to be way more important than your sales acumen. And that's really kind of like, as you grow and develop, that's what's going to put you in line so that when you are in a leadership position, you have the right attitude to kind of make sure that your team's conveying the right messaging. And it really starts back in that role.
Right. Oh, Joe, of course, I love that you said making connections is critical, because that's here at Sports Circle Indy what we try to do. And a reason why our memberships for students is only $20, and only $35 for those if you're not students. So if you guys on the call are interested in making those connections, taking a step, go to sportscircleindy.org, check out memberships, and hopefully we can get you to more events like this. And on a related note, and Madison one of our attendees here says, since people aren't hiring, since your organizations really aren't hiring right now, when do you expect they might hire? But I would also say, to your point of turning things around, making it a positive, that you work on your craft right now. You find a way to stand out. You make all those calls. You do the connections. You volunteer. So maybe there's things you can do when hiring starts. They've already got you in the mindset. Joe, do you think that's in line with what you'd say?
Todd already gave you the game plan. Just go steal it and use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sports is coming back. Sports is coming back. Like there's going to be need to sell tickets. Like even if a team isn't hiring right now, they will be.
Mm-hmm.
And is that to that end as well? Like, yeah, to say like nobody's hiring right now, so I'm not even going to bother trying. That's not true either. Like we just hired a ticket sales rep 2 days ago who starts at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
We just hired a email marketing manager who just started yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I think every situation is going to be a little bit different, a little unique.
Right.
And that's the one thing we kind of keep talking about internally is don't just assess everything as like everything's this way, because everything isn't that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, a lot of places aren't, and a lot of places are probably waiting until see how everything works out. So just do what Todd did and be there and be ready for when the opportunity does occur, so that you're front of the line.
Yeah, great. Okay, Jordan, let us know what are your 3 pieces of advice?
Yeah. So sorry, because I lost internet for a minute.
Okay.
And so if I repeat anything, I'm really sorry. Naturally, the one time my internet goes down. Piggybacking off of what Joe was talking about, using this time to better yourself, fill those gaps that you maybe don't even know that you have. There's so many free online classes right now in graphic design, in, mastering Excel, things like that, where maybe you're not as comfortable as you could be. But the best thing about sports is when you get in, you can do so many things to make yourself kind of indisposable, right? You want to fill those gaps that people didn't even realize were there, so that you can't go anywhere, because where would they be without you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I've moved up in my career, is I've found cracks in wherever organization I'm working, and I have found a way to fill them. And whether that's using professional development platforms or online classes, that's how you keep yourself relevant and how you keep your skills up, which is super important. The other thing I would say, again, is network. Use this time to go on LinkedIn, connect with someone, talk with them. I've never met anybody in sports that doesn't want to chat for 30 minutes about what they're doing, how they got there, right? Like we're always, I would say go get coffee, but we can't right now. But like, I'm always willing to jump on the phone with someone for 15 to 30 minutes, talk about how they can get, where they want to be, where they've gone, what their skills are setting them up for. And the last thing I can say is really be positive during this time. It's so easy to kind of turn into this negative kind of upset person and this ruined X, Y, and Z for me. Personally, one of my best friends was supposed to get married. She had to postpone her wedding to September. Heartbreaking, right? But it gave her time to be with her fiance a little bit more.
Yeah.
So trying to find the good in all of these bad things that are going on will only help you kind of move further and become a better person overall when you're looking for those jobs. Because you can say, oh, during this time, instead of sitting down and watching 14 hours of Netflix, I took X, Y, and Z classes and learned how to do this. And that's going to be great for a future employer to see that you took that initiative rather than sat on your butt all day. Right.
Right. Maybe only 7 hours on Netflix.
Right.
Give yourself some time, a little bit of grace. I get
Enough
it.
time to watch Tiger King and then get up, you know?
Well, we're definitely in our Q&A section now. So again, make sure those of you, we still have over 100 people on. This is awesome. I love it. Make sure you take your selfie and you post it on your social channels, #selfie Zoominar, or #SCI Zoominar, please. And we're going to make sure we give some prizes to those who do. So Leslie's also has a question about jobs and particularly internships. She's wondering if we're not really back in the swing of things, will there not be internships at all? Have you guys talked about that? And Joe, I'll let you touch on it since your sport's going to be at the height come the fall season.
Yeah, I think the way that we're approaching right now is we have already hired all of our interns for summer and fall programming. We're really kind of having a wait and see kind of approach to it because the majority of what we use interns for is to help us just kind of execute both, you know, our training camp up at Grand Park and our actual game day presentations. So if those are not going to be as large as, you know, in years past and as expected, because this thing, like, we'll probably scale back to some degree. Now, that being said, like, that's one instance of, you know, kind of our internship programs. We currently have an intern on the ops side working in the, you know, ticketing office. We have 6 night sale interns that we still are up and running with, who are, you know, making night calls and getting that experience and that training with. So I think it's kind of, you know, the larger pool of our interns are obviously the marketing and game day intern staff, which that'll be affected. But again, there's still areas where you can find opportunities if you dig.
Great. Todd or Jordan, would you guys see anything differently from an internship perspective? Is it kind of just a wait and see, but you know, doesn't hurt to start applying, certainly, if you haven't already done so?
Yeah, I think we are proceeding with internships as if everything is going to go back to normal. So our summer interns are supposed to start in 2 weeks, and it very well might be in a Zoom call that we do orientation, but it'll at least get them up and running. What we don't want to do is back ourselves into a corner, not hire any interns, and then our season gets a jump start and all of a sudden we're in the weeds because we don't have enough hands. So I think we're kind of in a similar wait and see, but we're definitely going to bring them in and try to at least get them some experience behind the scenes, even if it's just digital.
Great. Speaking of digital, we have Benjamin listening in too, and he's wondering, do you think we might go to virtual events? Will there be events without fans? Are you guys talking about that? Is it a possibility? What are you thinking? And Todd, I'll kick that off with you.
Sure. I mean, well, that's probably one of the 50 or 60 scenarios I've run. But I mean, I think, you know, with the governor's plan coming out more recently, I think it gives a little bit more guideline. And I think the hope is that we would play in front of fans. I mean, you know, it's such a social thing, right? I mean, it brings people together. So it may not be exactly how we remember it right away, but I think everybody would prefer it to be like it used to be prior to this, which includes high-fiving a complete stranger or going all the way to a hug after a big win. So, you know, I you know, personally, you know, being a ticket person, you know, starting my career and being in the sales and marketing side, man, I hope we get to a point where we can have fans back and it doesn't have to be virtual. In the short term, if that's the best we can do, then I think everybody would be happy to have sports. But long term, I think it's just too communal to have it be virtual.
Good. Let's all keep our fingers crossed, right? And another question from Diana Boyce. Thank you, Diana, for chiming in. Diana actually is leading the 2021 NBA All-Star committee and group. And she was my former boss when we were on the Super Bowl host committee together. So love to see you here. Thank you, Diana. Her question is, what is the most creative idea related to fan engagement that you have heard or created thus far during preparation for return from COVID-19? Jill, I'll let you take that one.
Ooh.
She asked good questions. She's in media relations. So
Hey, Joe, ignore the question and just answer it however you want. What's the most creative one you've ever seen? You have a good COVID
Yeah,
one, I tell you what. Be a politician.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So I think the big part, and really it kind of goes back to how we executed on the NFL draft a few weeks ago. Typically, when you're doing the draft, we send out 15 to 20 fans pre-selected to attend as representatives of the Colts organization. I thought it was really cool kind of how they incorporated that virtually going through the draft. And you really got to kind of there was still an engagement level from the fans, and they actually got even more national exposure on TV. So we heard a lot back from our family. It's oh, that was so cool. My family, in Wisconsin saw me on the ESPN broadcast. I was part of that inner circle group. So I thought that was a really unique thing. I think what we're seeing, especially from the NFL, is just all the different ways teams are looking to both on large and smaller scales to engage their fan base, leverage their players, leverage their coaches, leverage the people that people want to be exposed to and see. And the last one I have is probably it's not that we're doing it differently. But our draft series that our content team creates and produces for the last 2 years has been absolutely phenomenal. And it really gives you a really good sense of what it's like inside the draft room and kind of what the scouts and Chris and everybody is going through. So I think it maybe even got a little more eyeballs this year because of how we're currently set up.
Awesome.
How'd I do?
Great. Hey, we're all about having a great time here, right? I hope everyone's having a great time. We're still 93 strong. So what we're going to do is a quick poll because we want to hear from you guys. So I'm launching this poll right now, and hopefully it's coming up on your screen. And we want to know from all of you, what sport do you think will have the first game with fans in attendance coming out of COVID-19? So, we can see the numbers coming. Oh, this is exciting. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? Oh, I've got my little drum roll going on. And this is another great time for you to take your selfie. Remember to put it on your social media channels, hashtag SCI Zoominar. And be sure to follow us live tweeting on Twitter at Sports Circle IND and on Instagram at Sports Circle Indy. Okay, it looks like the time is slowing down. Ooh, I think we got a winner almost. NFL, NASCAR, Formula One, MLB. They're all getting up there. I think we've got a winner with NFL. Joe, congratulations. Ooh.
Better get to
I don't
work,
like hearing
Joe.
that. I don't like hearing that.
No? Why not? Why not?
He wants to learn. He wants to learn from somebody else. That idea sharing, right, Joe?
Absolutely. We don't have a team though in the NFL anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think a big part of this is we really are looking to the other leagues to kind of see how they go about this summer to help kind of direct us on the way that we should be operating. So I mean and plus I'm a huge NBA junkie, so I missed the season. But I look forward to NFL and starting. I just hope there's several others that start before us.
You don't want to be the guinea pig, right?
Nope.
Awesome. Okay, well, we've just got a minute left. So I want to say truly thank you guys so much for being here and giving your time. I hope everybody in attendance here found what you said valuable. I'm super excited. I know we're all craving sports again. We're thinking of you. And for those of you listening in, make sure that you take this advice. You take the time to go on in LinkedIn. You make those connections. Join us at Sports Circle Indy or reach out to any of us if you have more questions. And let's do this all together. We're in this together, right? So thank you for everybody being here. Thank you to CVR for allowing us to host this. Again, any more questions, go to sportscircleindy.org and we'll see you online more and more. Anything else you guys want to say? Ending on thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.